business news from the Capital Region. This is Washington Business Report with ABC7 national correspondent Rebecca Cooper.
Thanks for joining us for a fresh look at business and finance here in the Washington region. Coming up on today's show, how Tuesday's elections and how the outcomes affect local business. Plus, this week's rocket launch failure could hurt private space contracts, but not as much as you might think. And the Uber taxi decision, who's claiming victory and who feels they're being taken for a ride. But first this week, we take a look at a Northern Virginia-based business making a big splash nationwide in online retail. Thanks to a highly creative staff and geek culture now being considered cool, the Fairfax-based e-commerce company ThinkGeek.com is experiencing exponential growth. In our one-on-one interview this week, we sit down with the geek-in-chief, Kathryn McCarthy. The CEO of ThinkGeek explains how her company is growing by boldly going where no company has gone before. Kathryn McCarthy, welcome to Washington Business Report. So tell us a little bit about the genesis of the company. How did it get started? How did it get to the size that it is now? Let's start with how did it get started?
Well, the company started in 1999, so we just celebrated our 15th anniversary. And at that time, it was started by people who had a passion for the internet, who were really there when the internet first started, and they wanted to sell products that they loved and share it with others. Now, in the beginning, it clearly wasn't the size it is today. It was part of a larger company that went public in 2000 as part of the whole .com craze. Since then, it changed in many ways over the years, but ThinkGeek was always the same. And now we're focused solely on e-commerce, and the company has grown to $138 million in revenue last year. That growth of about 180% since 2009. We now have about 100 employees, which is up significantly. We have a much larger office space than when they started, which I believe was in one room.
So tell us why this location. It's got the ethos of Silicon Valley, but you're about as far from Silicon Valley as you can get in this country. Why here?
I think it is Silicon Valley East. At the time of the internet revolution, near the Dulles Corridor, there were many companies that started up. So the founders of this company were part of that whole generation. Most of those companies didn't survive after the .com bust, but our company did. And so we really decided to become that Silicon Valley East and create the atmosphere within the office of a startup company that was innovative and creative.
And tell me about you coming here. You have an impressive resume at General Electric. You were not just an auditor, but a global auditor. You were even based in London at one point for the company. Such a tried and true name. Why would you leave a company as large and as branded as GE and take a chance on this company?
Well, there are a couple of reasons, actually. One, I was really looking to do something that was different, to be part of more of a startup that I could help to build. I thought that e-commerce and technology were really interesting areas to be in, and that's where the future was. So I really saw a huge opportunity to become part of something. I also like the idea of being in a place where you could see every employee almost every day and be part of the action rather than being in a headquarters.
So you started off as Chief Financial Officer here, and then you grew and were promoted to CEO. What are some of the skills that you needed as CEO that you had to learn on the job?
Well, certainly I needed to learn more about retail. I had been in many different businesses in many different industries within GE, so I had the opportunity to see different things and to adapt my skill set, but I needed to learn more about retail and specifically around e-commerce, which was changing. Every few months something new was coming about. So I'd say that was the biggest thing I needed to do, and to do that I brought in some talent that had worked in previous startups and previous e-commerce companies to help us move forward.
So talk to me about that, because that's a good lesson for anyone in management that doesn't have a particular skill set that needs to bring someone in, but especially at a company like this that prides itself on its nerdiness, prides itself on its geekiness. How do you bring in someone who knows more than you do about such an important part of the company and yet maintain the hierarchy?
Oh, I think that's a great question. I mean, first, we kept the creative talent here. So we knew that we had people who had the creative genius that had made ThinkGeek what it was. So those people have been here for many years, and our Geek Labs exclusive product line continues to grow. At the same time, it was important to bring in people who had seen companies that were smaller, like less than $100 million, and grow them to scale. So we brought in a leader who was at Fanatics.com, somebody from Drugstore.com, people that could take the company to that next level of where we wanted to go.
So in this job, you've got to be part toy tryer-outer and visionary, and you've got to look at the finances with the growth of the company. Talk to me about just the creative side of this company.
I will openly say that I am not the creative genius here at all. It is our employees. It is people like Ty Liotta and Geek Labs that bring the creativity to the company. I think what I could bring is putting some process around that. So for example, how do we project manage the delivery of a new product to make sure it's here on time for our customers for the holidays? So that's what I tried to focus on and come to the company. Do nothing to interfere with the creativity, but put some process around it.
What are some of the resources that you miss about such a large established company like GE, and what's some of the nimbleness that you now like about not being at such a large established company?
Sure. I mean, clearly, when I first came in, systems and the ability to have data readily available, reports that immediately tell you how things are going, I mean, that was something we definitely needed to work on and have worked on over the past few years.
What is the key to keeping this type of employee happy? If you have someone who's creative and building great products, you want to keep them.
Well, you notice the way the office is decorated. I mean, people can decorate their cubes or their area in the way that they see fit.
There was a dog in the bathroom. People are bringing their dogs to work.
We have dogs. My dog is here. It's a great perk.
These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
The Star Trek Enterprise pizza cutter is a brilliant product.
It is one of our Geek Labs exclusive products, one of my favorite products.
Talk to us about some of the other products. What were some of the initial products that really caught on, and what are some of your best sellers today?
Sure. Well, initially, the company had T-shirts, and many of them we called frustration T-shirts, which really appealed to the crowd that I talked about, the IT crowd. So, "No, I will not fix your computer" was one of the original, very popular T-shirts that we did. Over time, we really did more in terms of actual product. We had an electronic rock guitar shirt from Geek Labs that was very popular. You mentioned the pizza cutter. More recently, we've had many popular Minecraft video game products, such as the pickaxe and the iron sword and the diamond sword. They've been done very well for us over the past few years. Star Wars is big for us. We're very excited about the new movies that are coming next year. So we're ramping up our Star Wars creativity going forward.
So who are some of the people that you give credit to creating this phenomenon where now it's cool to be a geek? Do we credit Steve Jobs? Do we credit Comic-Con? Do we credit, so many people like to credit the Big Bang Theory? Where do you give the credit?
I think it's really a combination of things. I mean, I will say that I think Apple went a long way toward changing all of our lives and making technology part of everything that we do. So I think that did change things for everyone. So the more mainstream person is now willing to wait in line overnight to get the iPhone 6. So I think it did change things, but you mentioned several others. Pop culture and things like Comic-Con, things like DC Comics and Marvel are very, very popular franchises. And so I think it all has come together at once and made geek a lot more mainstream.
Kathryn McCarthy, thanks for joining us on Washington Business Report.
Thank you.
And coming up, small business has a lot at stake in Tuesday's election, what you should be looking for and why. That's next.